Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me today. This is the live stream I do weekly where we talk about entrepreneurship, starting a business principles, side hustles, obviously, all that kind of stuff. So if you have any ambition to tack on another income stream to perhaps what you're making in a day job, something like that, or you're just interested in starting your own business and going that route and not needing an employer to make your money, you've come to the right place. So this is primarily a Q&A. We're going to be taking questions. So if you see me right now, get in the chat. You should see a chat box somewhere nearby. And I'll be taking questions. As always, special thanks to my YouTube channel members. You guys are awesome. And my Patreons. Membership has its privileges. And my super thanks donors. And of course, all the participants. Thank you. There's some people here now. So thank you for tuning in. The title of this week's episode is, Can Introverts Be Entrepreneurs? Good question. We're going to be answering that today. And how to get the word out. So this is in the sense of marketing, of if you are selling something, you have a product or a service, how do you communicate to your potential customers? That's what we're going to be talking about too. So we're going to do those. We're going to actually answer those in reverse order while we're waiting for questions. So how to get the word out. Let's start with that. Okay, this is obviously of primary importance to people who are starting a business. Often creating the offering, the thing that you sell, whether it's a product or a service or any combination thereof, is usually not the biggest challenge, right? Usually you know how to create the product that you're going to be selling, right? That's not going to be the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge for most people is going to be how to sell it. There is obviously a lot of people out there that could use the thing that you are trying to sell. The big question is, how do you get the word out to those people? Okay, and incidentally, this is the topic of marketing. The principles we're covering here are going to be things you would learn when you study marketing, right? Very, very important part of business. In fact, I think marketing is the most important area of business. None of them exist in isolation. You require all of them, right? So you can't get away from things like accounting or finance or operations, things like that, economics. I mean, these are all big factors, but marketing, if I had to pick one, is going to be the most important area of business. So that's what we're talking about, how to get the word out. So you may have heard something in the world of marketing. It's been around for a very long time. It's called the 4 P's of marketing. And P is in the letter P. Let's see if I can, I'm going to, just to make this more visually interesting, I'm going to bring up a web browser and we're going to do this stuff together. Okay, let's see if I can get this working here. Okay, right. So let's try this. The 4 P's of marketing. Can you guys see that? No, you can't see that. Here we go. No, that's not working either. Here we go. Yeah, there we go. Screen share, right? As you can see, I'm on the ball. Me and technology are like this. Okay, so the 4 P's of marketing, this is a very common thing. It's been around for a very long time. There's all kinds of fancy little illustrations you can see to visualize it more. But product, place, price, and promotion are the 4, okay? Now, like I've mentioned previously, people have added onto that since the invention of this thing quite a while ago. And in my opinion, it's all BS. There's 4 P's of marketing. Those are the 4 principal things. And anything that they've added is not really valid. I mean, I suppose from a certain perspective, all this different stuff they talk about, could apply in certain industries, I suppose, but not really universally. Or if they do, they don't have the importance of the 4. So what are the 4 and what does this actually mean? Let's look at this one here. This is nice and big. Okay, so what this is saying is that in order to be successful, okay, you need to get these 4 things right when it comes to your marketing. Okay, so you have to have the right product. That means you have to have something that is of value. So if you're targeting a group of people and you're trying to sell this to them, it has to be something that delivers value to them. It's something that they either want or they need, right? It either solves a problem or it's desirable in maybe a non-essential way, like a luxury, right? Okay, but it has to deliver value. That's all that's saying. Okay, so you have to have the right product. The product has to solve problems for certain people. Okay, the people you are promoting it to. Okay, price. Obviously, you have to get the price right. If your price is too low, you will not make enough profit to have this make sense. If the price is too high, then nobody will buy it, or the sales volume will be far below what you need, and you will also not make a profit. So your price has to be correct for this to work. Okay, promotion. You need to have the right promotion. That means you need to communicate something that persuades your target audience, your target market, for them to do business with you. If your promotion is ineffective and it doesn't do a good job of communicating what the value of your product is, or it's just ineffective, then all this is going to fail, right? So you have to get the promotion right, and the message that you're sending has to be right, and the channel over which it goes has to be right. And place, that means that where you're doing the promotion, this is basically the channel. So where you're doing your promotion, and by the way, this 4 P's of marketing, this dates back to before the internet, right? So physically, the place where you do your promotion has to be appropriate, where the people in your target audience are going to see it. Okay, so for example, the most obvious example of this might be something like you are selling, I don't know, clothes, right? You're a manufacturer of apparel, of clothing, and you've just designed your own clothes and now you're selling them. Great. How are you going to convince people that your clothes are good? Let's say you've got the other 3 P's down. You've got clothes that some people definitely find appealing and make sense. They're priced correctly. And in order to advertise them, like your marketing message that you're going to send to your potential customers, that's very persuasive. Okay, it's done properly. It succeeds in communicating the value of your product to the people you're targeting. Great. Place, the last P, that basically says you have to position your promotional material in such a way that your target market will see it. Okay, so if you go to an auto show and you start advertising clothes, like especially clothes for women, like dresses and things, you probably won't get a lot of sales because the people that go to auto shows probably aren't in the market for buying a new dress, right? I mean, hey, you never know. You never know. It takes all kinds, but chances are that's not the most appropriate place, right? On the other hand, if you go to a place where your target market, your potential audience, congregates, they gather there for whatever reason, maybe a fashion show, something like that, I don't know, or maybe a convention, or maybe some kind of event or something like that to do with clothing, right? Maybe at the mall where there's a bunch of other clothing stores, and you advertise there, the odds of your promotion being seen by people who would actually be your customers goes up dramatically, right? So you have to position your promotion properly, and that's what place is all about. This thing right here. Okay, so you got product, price, place, and promotion. Okay, so those are the four P's of marketing. See if I can control my own computer here. That's always the moment of suspense with me. Okay, so place is very, very important. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how to get the word out. So if you have a business idea or an idea that you want to use to do like a side hustle, you have an idea of what you might do. Okay, the big question you have to ask yourself is the potential customers for the thing that you're offering. Where would those people congregate? Okay, where would they gather? So that if you advertise or do some promotion there, they're most likely going to see it, right? You can't just throw out ads generically. There isn't enough money in the world to be able to just blanket the world with promotion and hope that it might reach enough of your target market, right? You have to get specific and only do your promotion in those places or over those channels. That's the idea. Okay. I see NC Worker is here. So good afternoon, NC Worker and everyone. Thank you for being here. Okay. So this is where you do market research. This is where you figure out of the types of people who would be potential customers of yours. Who are these people? Where are these people? And where do you find them? Like how can you reach them? Do they all go online to a certain place on the internet? Do they use a certain social media site, and then they all congregate in a certain place or certain group or room or whatever you want to call it, hashtag, on that social media platform? Is that where you find those people? Or is it in the physical world somewhere where you put up a sign, right? People still do a lot of signage, because if you put your sign next to a road, especially a road that people drive down, where there's a lot of activity of a certain kind on that road, a lot of people see it. So you get a lot of exposures, right? So it's that idea, okay? A good thing to do when you're starting out is look at your competitors. Where are they promoting their products? It's one thing to look at what they're doing and how they're selling it and what products they have, but it's another thing to look at how they're doing their marketing. How are they promoting and getting their marketing message out there? What channels are they using? And you can use that as a starting point for determining what you're going to do. Okay? So that's a major tip right there. Okay? If you're doing something that's non-innovative, which is the majority of businesses, you're not blazing new ground for the majority of what you do. You're sort of taking something that's relatively popular right now and you're doing it yourself, but you're putting your own spin on it, right? So you're kind of copying a template made by others. Look at how they're promoting it, okay? And finally, something that's also part of this is talking about the marketing funnel. Hopefully you guys know what the marketing funnel is. I've covered this before. Let's do a very brief refresher here if you've never heard of this marketing funnel. Okay, I've covered this several times. So this is the idea. Okay, when you get the word out, okay, when you have a marketing message that you then put out there, okay, you're going to get exposures. So one exposure is one person who sees it. Okay. Now, you start at the top here. This is this funnel. And the idea is that let's say 1,000 people saw your promotion, whether it was a post online or whether it was a physical sign that you put up and people drive by it or walk by it. Let's say 1,000 people saw it. Okay. So of all those people that saw it, maybe a certain subset of them, like you can say, okay, these are all the people that technically have an awareness of you. You don't really know if they read it properly or they saw it properly or they committed it to memory, but you could conclude that maybe that many people have an awareness. And then of those people, a subset will actually consider like, maybe I should do that, or maybe I should buy that, right? And of those people, only a certain subset of them actually buy, okay? And you could keep going down and say, of the people that have bought your product, how many return customers do you have? A subset of your customers will be return customers and so on, right? I mean, there's no one standard way of doing this. There's all kinds of different flavors. This is another one. I think this is a little bit more accurate. I don't know if we can make this bigger. Not easily. But so awareness, interest, consideration, intent, evaluation, and purchase. Whatever. You can subdivide it the way you want. But the idea is that you have to go to a lot of people up here. Okay? This has got to be big for you to get a few people down here. That's the overarching principle here. So if you want, say, 10 customers, that might mean you have to get 10,000 people to see your message, right? This is where things like the internet can come in really handy. You start throwing out posts in very strategic places, you make them very compelling, and you can get 10,000 people to see your thing and read it. Okay, so that's the idea. So hopefully that makes sense. So this is the building blocks of how to get your word out there. If something is newsworthy, that generally tends to help. Okay. And if you cater to the wishes of a platform, so for example, if you're on social networking, whether you do Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or, YouTube or, what are the things that those platforms want? What's the type of content that they want? If you can give them that type of content that serves as your marketing message, they will help you. They will be amenable to spreading your message, okay, and assisting you in getting it out there, right? So that's led to things like content marketing, which is, of course, what YouTube is, where they give away stuff for free. They'll give away an informational video or something, a training on how to do something. And then, the other purpose of it is also maybe to sell something, right? As you can see, that's kind of what I've got. In a way, I mean, I'm not here primarily to sell the courses. The courses are kind of like an added thing to the primary thing, which is my YouTube videos. But that's a well-known business model. So the idea is that people go there for the free stuff, and then after a while, if you've done your job correctly, they like the free stuff. They get a lot of value from it, and they want to go further, and then they start trusting you, and then you offer a product or a service to sell. That's the idea, right? So that's called content marketing. So there's a lot of other variations on this, but that's the basic fundamentals of how this stuff works. So this should hopefully be food for thought for anybody who is wanting to do your own side hustle, because the marketing is going to be a major part of it. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. That's what I have to say about how to get the word out on your offering, your product or service for your side hustle or your standalone business. Yeah, if you have any questions, get in the chat. I see there are 11 people here. There were 17 people a moment ago, but there are 11 people here now. So if you are struggling with anything or wondering anything, let me know. I get a lot of people that leave comments on my YouTube videos that are like questions. And it's not always super convenient to just type in these big answers to people's questions. It's not really practical for me a lot of the time. So that's why I do these live streams, because it's so much more efficient to do it verbally. So if you do have a question, ask it in the chat and I will do my best to help you out. Okay, that brings us to the main topic of this episode, which is, can introverts be entrepreneurs? This is something that's quite close to my heart. I am and I've always been an introvert, a technical introvert, and there are a lot of technical introverts out there, and it's a weakness and a blessing. It's a curse and a blessing, all at the same time, isn't it? There are many different types of introverts, and I'm using the term introvert in the sense of the Myers-Briggs type indicator, which used to be more of a thing than it is now. But basically, it just means introverts are people who they can do social interaction. They can do public speaking. They can do, conversational. They have conversational type skills. They don't necessarily have social phobia. They can speak in crowds. They can participate in groups. They can do all that stuff, but they find social activity as an energy draining experience. Okay, so it's not the thing that those people would do for fun. So at the end of the day, when an introvert comes home and they want to recharge the battery, they don't surround themselves with 50 people and all have a big conversation. They don't go out and meet new people and have like a big giant party. Instead, they grab a book, or they sit in front of the TV, or they have like a hobby and they spend some alone time. And that's how they recharge the battery and put more fuel in the tank. That's the sense that I'm using the term introvert. Someone who can do social interaction, but they don't do it for fun. They do it out of necessity. The Last Liberal Talk Show is here, and the Last Liberal Talk Show says, thank you for doing this. You're absolutely welcome, Last Liberal Talk Show. How liberal are we talking about? That is the question that occurred to me. I mean, there's liberal and then there's liberal. This could be the former or this could be the latter, in which case, then we would know where we stand, right? So it's a difference of degree. What am I talking about? So anyway, if you are an introvert, you've come to the right place. I'm sure you know already how being an introvert can be an advantage in some ways, but a drawback in others, especially when the people you always hear about that are much more visible in this world are extroverts. They're always shouting about something. They're always talking and flapping their gums about something. So they're much more visible than the introverts. But throughout my life, I've been under the impression that the world is 50% introverted and 50% extroverted. You've got an even split of the two types of people. And that's come from a variety of sources. So I'm just going on that assumption that 50% of people out there are introverts. But usually the people that you always hear from are the other 50%, the extroverts. And unfortunately, extroverts can get the false impression that there are a lot more of them than there are of us. And that's because we shut the hell up when we don't have anything intelligent to say, unlike a lot of extroverts who love to just advertise that far and wide when they don't have anything intelligent to say. So this is a problem. And also, it can be a bit of a disadvantage because extroverts tend to gravitate towards roles, including jobs that require a lot more social interaction as part of the job. That's the general trend. So if you do any social interaction, you got to deal with people, chances are you're dealing with the extroverts because they place themselves in those roles. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're better at it than introverts, and a lot of them aren't, but it does mean that they enjoy it more. So can introverts be entrepreneurs? The answer is yes, you can. However, there are a special set of challenges that you have to deal with being an introvert. Okay, now if you can overcome these, there's absolutely no reason why you can't prosper and thrive. Okay, but you will have to pay particular attention to these. Okay, let's talk about very briefly about the advantages. We all know the advantages of being an introvert. You got a lot of focus, and it allows you to also be obsessed about something in a good way. It allows you to be passionate and really zero in on some idiosyncratic thing, and that can result in eventually you becoming an expert in that thing. And it can also result in you having the insight to be able to innovate that thing. Now, not necessarily, but that is a broad trend. A point I've made several times, that if you look at a lot of the innovations, including a lot of inventions that have happened over the ages, who is behind the discoveries and the inventions? The vast majority of the time, and I mean the vast majority of the time, introverts. The people that discovered things, the people that invented new, improved things. Don't take my word for it. Go out and do your research. They're introverts because these are the people that are obsessed enough to care about something so peculiar that they end up learning everything there is to know about it and pushing forward the boundaries of human knowledge on that thing. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of obsession, and those, my friend, are introverts that can do this. So that can be the advantage. You can innovate, you can solve a problem because you have the dedication and the obsessive nature to sort of focus on it. Okay, that's great. So this is where introverts shine. The disadvantage, of course, is that in the world of business, business depends on connections. The connections between people. That is the nature of business. Business is the scientific, and sometimes it's an art, but the scientific process of making money. That's what business is. It's the study of how to make money and the practice of making money. And that involves connections to other people. Think of it this way. At the very least, you're going to need customers, right? So you got to be able to go out and find customers and connect with your customers, persuade them to do business with you, and then interact with them and do a transaction, right? So that involves connecting to people. And the more you look at the rest of what's involved in developing a business and running a business, you realize that there's even more connections, right? In order to know what to do, that a lot of the time depends on factors like what is being done right now. What's the very latest thing? What's out there already, right? And in order to know that, you have to connect and figure out what's going on. What are these people doing? What are those people doing? You know, this is unfortunately where extroverts have an advantage because, you know, when it comes to talking to people and enjoying connecting and, you know, having conversations with people about what's going on, right? They thrive in that environment, especially face to face. Okay, so business is based on connections. Now, this is where introverts, you can still succeed, but you have to address it properly. Okay, and I'm speaking from experience. I mean, I don't know what would qualify someone to really talk about this other than being an introvert and who has done business. So that's where I'm coming from. I mean, there might be exceptions. Okay, so introverts have a weakness because they tend to want to avoid communicating with people unless it's absolutely necessary because they don't enjoy it in itself, right? I think we have to admit this to ourselves. Some people are extreme introverts and some people are mild introverts, but the introvert tendency is to not enjoy this kind of activity, right? So they tend to shy away from it, and you tend to want to go into yourself and focus on, say, creating a product or service rather than focusing on how to get the word out, how to market it, how to sell it, right? And the problem I've seen personally many times, because I've worked with a lot of young entrepreneurs and small businesses and things, is that introverts who are running the show, they tend to make this mistake where they develop something and they just sort of ignore the outside world. And then when they finish developing this thing that they think is awesome, they are surprised to find that the rest of the world apparently doesn't agree, as based on the evidence of the results. You put this thing out there, you offer it for sale, and crickets, right? And that's when introverts don't understand. Like, how can people not be interested in this? This is amazing, right? And that's their weakness. So you need to be tuned in to the outside world because you are not doing something in isolation. You're doing it in a mesh network with every other person, every other human. Okay. Someone says, very interesting. Ah, well, thank you. That's the kind of descriptive compliment I like. No, thank you for that. I'm glad you're finding this interesting. And Zanzuki says, hello, Bill. Thank you for the stream. You're absolutely welcome. So, okay. So here's some standard ways to proceed. Okay. These are not original to me. These are, I would say, common knowledge. The most obvious is people recommend that if you're an introvert, you want to go into business, to partner with an extrovert. Now, in my experience, that's easier said than done. It's very hard to find an introvert that is, just like this with some raging extrovert. You don't see that very often. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but it's just not super common. Now, if there's someone that you would want to partner with where you both do the business together, and there's a division of labor where you, say, design the product and do the administration and all the paperwork and blah, blah, and they do the sales or something like that, yes, you can make that work, but you have to. The problem with partners is that you really, really have to agree and see eye to eye on almost everything, or else you're in for a world of pain. And partners can be more trouble than they're worth unless they're really, really bringing in something essential. Okay, so if you could do this, great. If there's someone that you like, your best friend, you're going to go into business, you have complementary skills, you're maybe a more technical person, they're a more salesperson type, great. Go ahead, go forth and prosper. However, a lot of people may not be in a situation where they can do this. Okay, so that's what I'll say about it. Okay. That's the drawback with that approach. You can't always just find someone to partner with. And it's not as simple as just connecting to somebody. Hey, you do sales. Let's partner. You want to be a partner in my business? If you don't know the person and you don't really get along, you're not on the same level, you can be in for a world of pain because you will fight and argue over every little detail. And in the beginning, for most people, it doesn't go according to plan, and you do have setbacks and you have learning experiences, and that can really create a lot of conflict and tension as people blame each other and all this kind of stuff. So that's a bit of a practical problem with this. The second thing I'll say about this is find a way to do the sales and research tasks, like market research, where you learn about who your potential customers could be. Try and find a way of doing that in a manageable way that you can stomach. So maybe you're not great with people in person, and maybe you don't enjoy that, going to events, going to make small talk with people at an event, something like that's not your bag. But you don't mind getting on social media and doing it virtually. There's a lot you can do. You can interact with people, and you can do posts, and you can get data off the internet, from people and stuff like this. So if you're okay with doing it in that form, then you can sort of, if that's sufficient to do your business, okay, to make your business idea work, then, go with that, right? Like if you can stomach it in one way, shape, or form. Or maybe you're not good with events. You don't like going to events and approaching people that you don't know, but you are okay with doing informational interviews. You reach out to people on LinkedIn. You say, hey, I'd love to talk to you, ask you a few questions about your business. I want to get into that business myself in the future. I'm just wanting to learn. Would I be able to ask you a few questions? They say, sure, come on down. And you go down there and they're like, hey, thanks for coming. Let's go to my office, or let's go to the nearest Starbucks. And you start asking them questions. It's so cool what you guys do. I understand you do this, right? How did that come about? And they start talking about it, and you just learn and you take it all in. Now, you're maybe okay one-on-one. When someone has invited you in, they want to talk to you. They're flattered that you want to talk to them. You ask them questions and they just love to tell you all about what they've done and what they think about things. Maybe you could stomach that, but maybe you're not good at events where you have to schmooze, you have to approach people cold. Maybe that's not your bag. So my point is that, maybe you're not okay with interacting with people, in every way, but maybe you can stomach interacting them in one or two ways that are enough to get your business off the ground and make sales. Okay? Zanzuki, I can tell you're an introvert by your last comment saying, yep, and that person could just say no. Yes, they could. Oh no, someone could say no to me. Oh my God. I should forget the whole thing. Yeah, I got news for you. Get ready for people who are going to say no to you. Because in order to get to a yes, you have to go through several no's. It's like the other thing I talk about, getting a job. Like in order to get hired, chances are you have to go through several job interviews where they don't hire you, right? Now, if you're absolutely afraid of someone rejecting you in any way, shape, or form, you would never get a job because, the odds are for any job interview you go to, it's more likely going to be a no than a yes. But you persist with it because sooner or later, there will be a yes. It's a statistical probability. It's like throwing the dice, right? If someone says, okay, every customer you talk to, okay, here's a die, like a 6-sided die. We're going to roll the die. And if you roll a 6, they say yes and they buy your product. If you roll the die and it's a 1 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, they'll say no, right? You know what I mean? So if you are afraid of, I'm just saying, hypothetically, if you are afraid of like anyone saying no to you and you're going to be devastated by that and you're going to question your entire sense of self-worth and the validity of your idea of what you're trying to do as a business, then you would never get anywhere, right? it helps looking at it like a statistical process, because that's what it is, right? Salesperson goes door to door. Most people slam the door in their face, would you like to, and then slam, but, every 10th house, someone buys, and that's why they do it, if ever you're wondering, right? I'm not trying to get at you, Zams. I'm just saying, I'm just sort of making a point here, by an extrapolation of what you said. Yeah, to have to learn to be persistent to the point where the odds are more favorable you succeeding. Well, yeah, okay. But even if the odds never change and you know that you have, say, a 15% chance of making a sale, like, the way I look at it, that's good. Because, okay, let's make it a nice round number. Let's say 10%, okay? So if you want 10 sales, you have to talk to approximately 100 people, right? If you want 100 sales, well, that's easy. Just find a way of talking to 1,000 people. There you got your 100 sales. There you go. Predictable, right? Maybe the economy takes a bit of a turn south, right? Okay, instead of 10%, it's maybe a 7% ratio. Maybe there's a economy goes up, there's a boom, right? Maybe it's a 15% chance now, right? So it's predictable, and you don't mind the rejections because you're expecting them. And you realize that, like, hey, the more I do of these, the more no's I go through, the quicker I'm going to get to a yes. This is the life of salespeople, right? This is like what salespeople have to deal with in the sales department. This is their world, okay? So, that's how you look at it. Now, knowing this to a degree can help, right? It still doesn't help you if, as soon as you hear a no, you get this immediate emotional reaction where you just want to crawl into a corner and die, and you're devastated and you hate your life and you hate what you're doing. Sometimes depending on how much of an introvert someone is, you know what I'm saying? Or like, okay, you can handle perhaps a rejection online, but maybe not in person. Maybe in person, it angers up the blood and you really find it unpleasant. But maybe online, if you're doing online sales and someone doesn't place an order or something, it's like you're like, okay, that's fine. You don't have that emotional reaction. Zenzuki says, "No, you are fine, Bill. Your guess was on point." Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad. Somebody, Wrath, says, "Hi, Bill. I gave an interview, and the interview went very well. The interviewer told me we got rejected. So what should you do?" Okay. This is a live stream about entrepreneurship and business. So we're actually doing a live stream later today. So come back. If you want to talk about job interviews, come back and we can get into that. Okay. So now there's a point that I'm going to show you guys just how professional I am. Okay. Just how professional I am. I wrote down a point on my notes here earlier. I was just jotting down some things to say that I don't understand what I meant when I wrote it. So what I wrote was another way of succeeding in business as an introvert was to start a business type that automates or virtualizes the sales/research tasks. Okay, now I don't precisely remember what I meant when I wrote that down, but to try and interpret what I said to myself, like all professional people do, maybe that's referring to like YouTube, where YouTube sort of takes care of the promotion independent of you. So if you create a video, YouTube will offload the job of promoting it to other people. That's what the algorithm does, right? For better or worse, it sort of takes that task from you, right? So there's some businesses that you can do that sort of exploit that. Like for example, if you are like back in the day, for example, you had companies like Microsoft, and here's another example, like a software ecosystem where like Microsoft or Apple, where does that? Yeah, Apple has third-party products. I don't use Apple stuff, so I don't know. But Microsoft, like, it was a platform. They'd have Windows, and then all these software partners make software that runs on top of Windows, and all these hardware partners make hardware that runs under Windows, and Windows is kind of the common factor. And the idea was that you partner with Microsoft, whether you're a software developer or you're a hardware manufacturer, and they will take care of some of the promotion for you. Okay, not entirely, but they will take care of some of the heavy lifting because they're out there propagating their software. And in order to get Windows everywhere, they would have to promote the hardware essentially too, and the applications that come along with it. So to a degree, they're assisting you, right? Where they do a lot of the hard work in promoting, what is essentially your products too. You're coming along for the ride. So there are some business models where you don't have to do all of the marketing from scratch. You can piggyback on top of like a major partner or, an association or something like that, where they do a lot of the work for you. Okay. So like in the case of YouTube, I wrote down it virtualizes and automates the sales and the research. So if anyone here, if you guys have your own YouTube channels, you know what I'm talking about. If you put out a video, YouTube gives you analytics and stuff, and they're sort of useful to a degree, I suppose. They tell you what's going on with your video and who's watching it to a degree. So it gives you some insight. So they're doing a lot of the market research for you, in a sense, right? They're saying, here's some data that we've collected for you if you want to look at it, right? So you don't have to do all of that stuff yourself. You don't have to put out questionnaires and polls and things like this just to understand what's going on out there. Okay, so that would be another way to make this work. Okay, so that's what I had down for answering the question, can introverts be entrepreneurs? Yes, they can. However, you got to pay special attention to some of your weaknesses, in particular, a revulsion with interacting with people, because the nature of business is that you must connect to get information and to propagate and promote yourself. You have to connect. And if you don't want to connect, that's going to be a considerable drawback. So do it in a way that you can stomach. Partner with people that help offload that, whether it's you're physically partnering with, another individual to help do this business, or you're partnering with a company or organization that's doing part of that process for you. And then finding out how you can do this process in a way that you can tolerate, because you'll need to be doing it in some way, shape, or form. So if you don't mind getting online or you don't mind certain types of interaction, pick something where all you need is that type of interaction and you can make a success of it. Okay, that's all I have to say about that specifically. Now I'm going to open it up to questions if there are any questions. So if you have any questions, get in the chat, let me know, and I will do my best to help you out. Anything to do with business, side hustles, being an introvert, that kind of thing. Introverts will always have a bit of a challenge because they don't enjoy this stuff, but you have to do some of it to exist in the world. And the better you get at it, the further you'll go. You've got the substance. You just need to understand the veneer. You've already got the brains, you've already got the talent that other people could harness to make money, right? You just need to get better at, advertising this, communicating that you can do this, and showing how professional you would be, how appropriate you would act, how capable you are in terms of connecting to people, getting information. I've had to do all this. Like in my life has been a journey to overcome a lot of this stuff. And I'm not like a whiz at any of it, but I've been able to do all of it, at least to a passing degree. And for most things, that's what I found it's all you need. So that's what I recommend other people do. And like learn to do public speaking, learn to have a conversation with people, learn to approach someone you don't know, learn to sell yourself and be able to talk up what your capabilities are and why someone would need you and what you can do for them. Nothing material has changed. You're the same person with the same capabilities. It's just now you can convey your capabilities to someone in, say, a minute. Whereas before, if they haven't seen your capabilities firsthand, they would never know that you have the ability to do those things. Right? If you're an introvert, I would recommend there's a few resources that are out there. I've talked about a few things over the years. One is Toastmasters. If you're just wanting to learn how to speak to other people or learn how to speak in public, they're great for that. They have a website. I believe it's toastmasters.org. I'm not affiliated with them at all, by the way. This is just something I know of, and I was a member of Toastmasters a long time ago for a little while. Toastmasters, this is what they're called. Let's see. This website tries to find like a location right near you, but here's the website. This is the Wikipedia. Where is it here? You see, I hate this. Like it tries to be too clever. And here we go. Toastmasters International Home. Okay. So this is their website, toastmasters.org. So just go here. They're all over the world. And they have clubs everywhere. And you just join a local club and you go down there. And my memories of this bunch was that they were super, super nice and they were super supportive. So you go down there and these people are just fantastic and they're very encouraging and they welcome you in and you really feel part of a group. And it's a great environment. If you're also trying to meet people or whatever, I guess it can also serve that function, but they work on public speaking. That's what they do. And everybody takes turns talking and, you give feedback and things like this. And there are exercises and then group activities and, individual activities and all this kind of stuff. And so if you've never heard of this, I recommend you check it out. There's other resources too, but Toastmasters is one of them. There's some really good books on public speaking and conversational skills written by Dale Carnegie. I'm a big fan of Dale Carnegie. He wrote, what was that famous book that he wrote? I reviewed it. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Classic book. You really should read that. That's kind of your step one, I think, of if you're an introvert, being able to come out of your shell and be like a power introvert, Zanzuki says, so Bill, how to build up a tolerance for rejection? Well, look, I'm not a psychologist or anything or a psychiatrist. I mean, I can only share my experiences, what's worked for me. And what's helped me a bit is, I think, two things. Number one is, like I said earlier, it's the knowledge of what's going on. So once you realize that when you start talking to people and you start putting stuff out there, it's a statistical probability of what the response is that you're going to get. Okay. So if you talk to 100 people, chances are all 100 are not going to say no, right? Unless something's really wrong, right? Maybe a majority of them will say no, but, there'll still be some people that say yes. So, we talked earlier about job interviews. We also talked earlier about the sales process. If you're trying to sell something, a lot of people will say no. More people will say no than will say yes. And that's kind of normal. That's typical across the board, right? So, knowing this helps you understand what's going on. And when you understand what's going on, your confidence doesn't take this big hit when someone says no. Because you realize that, first of all, it's not a rejection of me or anything I'm doing. It's just that what I'm proposing, is not really what that that particular individual is looking for, you know? And it's not a reflection on what anything I'm doing. It's just that they're not tuned into this. They've decided it's not for them, maybe for a valid reason, or maybe they just have dismissed things out of hand. Maybe there's a history there that I'm not aware of because I don't really know this person very intimately. So, you know, it's because of that they're saying no to me. And I'm also aware that I've rejected a lot of things out of hand that I later on said yes to because I was just ignorant of how stuff worked or how that particular thing worked, right? I remember the first time they showed off the iPhone. I dismissed it. I said, no, that'll never catch on. I'm certainly not getting one. In all fairness, I never did get an iPhone. I mean, I've used other things, superior things, but I remember like that was my reaction to it, and like, wow, I was spectacularly wrong on that one. So, you know what I mean? It's not that, there was anything wrong with the iPhone. It's not that I was a complete idiot. I saw the light. It's just that up till that point, I was biased against it because of, I'd used Blackberries and things like that. And that's the thing. People don't realize how awesome it is until they got it into their hands and they started playing with it, right? That was the reality. So once you understand, like, okay, that's what's going on, it can help you to a degree. Okay, so understanding that. The second thing is if you develop your conversational skills, your public speaking skills, your presentation skills, your persuasion skills, all that kind of stuff, and you know that you're better at that stuff. You've seen evidence that you're better. You give a presentation and everyone applauds, or they all go and do the thing you're trying to persuade them to do, whatever. Or you do a job interview and you get the job. They say, we pick you because you're awesome. Then you start to feel like, okay, I'm pretty good. I feel confident in my abilities, right? So that also helps you handle rejection too. Feeling more confident. It's like, okay, it just didn't work out for them. That's fine. But it doesn't dissuade me. I know that I do a certain number of these and I will get a yes. Right? So those two things. So educating yourself on what's actually going on, looking at it in terms of a statistical probability is helping to understand what's going on. That helps. And also working on yourself and feeling more confident in your own abilities. That helps. Those two things have helped me handle rejection. So maybe that will work for you. And there you go. If anyone has any more questions, please get in the chat right now. If no one has any questions in a minute or so, I will probably wind this down. But thank you to the people that are here, that have participated and have tuned in for this. I'm always amazed that me just rambling on, people are interested enough to listen to me ramble on about stuff. Also because there's minimal structure to this. So, yeah. On the screen, I have these things here. These are my other YouTube channels. And for the moment, they're basically like like a clip channel where I'm taking my live streams and I'm clipping out like maybe the answer to a specific question and putting that as a video, a self-contained video. So it's like a 2-minute video or something. So what I'm trying to do is take the highlights of a live stream and make 1 or 2 clips out of it, and then just throw it on those channels. So the Company's Expert 3, you should definitely subscribe to that. That is the clip show for this channel. So if you want to get right to the answer of certain questions or the high point, that's where I'm going to be posting that stuff. So check it out. Carmiego is here. Says, thank you for everything today, Bill. You're absolutely welcome, Carmiego. Crichton says, well, you have quality points and experiences I jump on and watch when I can. Well, thank you very much, Crichton. Hopefully you're getting something out of it. Yeah, if you are an introvert, you can succeed in business. You just, as always, you have to adapt, yourself to what you do, right? You don't necessarily have to do a cookie cutter thing. You don't necessarily have to cold call people or go door to door or all those activities that introverts collectively they shudder at. They just squirm, and they don't want to think about it because it's so horrifying, right? Somebody says, how was it being a mall cop? Okay. That's an interesting question. Was there an earlier part to that? I'm interested in hearing what led up to that. But yeah. So anyway, it doesn't look like there's a ton of questions, which is okay. So I'm probably going to wrap this up. But I want to thank everyone for being here. Now, if you want to go deeper, okay, you are interested in starting a business, or you want to go the entrepreneurial route one day, I have several resources. This is the main one, okay? This is a course that I have. That there's a link in the description, and you can follow it, and you can take it, and it will, if you stick with it long enough, it will teach you everything that you would learn in a brick and mortar MBA at a university. So it's not really a course in a sense, it's more of a program. But the catch is that it's all it's self-learning. So I have several videos that guide you through like all of the business topics. So, accounting, finance, marketing, operations, HR, economics, all that kind of stuff, innovative thinking, all of that. And, I talk about the topic as an overview, and then I talk about my experiences with that topic and how it's helped me and how you can incorporate this and what you can do with it. And then you essentially get a reading list. And then the reading list are the actual textbooks. They're not written by me. They're the same textbooks that you would get if you took an MBA in places like Harvard Business School. And so you're reading the same source material they're reading. And if you've taken a technical degree like engineering or science or something like that, or, IT, this stuff is a walk in the park compared to like those, like science and engineering and IT. This is a lot simpler. Okay. The only slightly challenging part of business is the accounting component. That's where you actually have to do a bit of math, right? You have to really focus your mental powers to wrap your head around some of the concepts. But the rest of it is a degree of magnitude easier than things like engineering and science. So if you have done anything like that, you can handle this. Now, this will shave years off your journey to being successful in business if you're just learning everything the hard way. You're just trying things and having it fail and then wondering what happened. And then you're trying to reverse engineer what you did. This gives you real shortcuts. It's not the be all end all, because you need both. You need the theory and you also need the practical knowledge. But this gives you the theory, okay? And it's a cost-effective and convenient way of getting the theory. You don't have to go back to school, right? You don't have to spend a fortune on, a university degree or anything. This will get you the knowledge. So if that's what you're looking for, I created that to provide it. And I myself have an MBA. And so, this is essentially all that learning pre-packaged, all ready to go for you, if that's what you're interested in. We got a couple more comments here. Crichton says, okay, I saw that one. Okay. How is it being a mall cop? Will this available to watch later? Yes, all my live streams stay on my channel, so you can watch them after the fact. In fact, I recommend you watch them, but at 1.5 times the speed. You can adjust the play speed. I'm not the world's most amazing speaker. I tend to hesitate and have pauses in between every phrase. So that can help make it move along, especially if I'm not covering anything radically complicated. So it's even more efficient too. But you lose the ability for me to answer your questions in real time. So it's a trade-off. Anyway, thank you to everybody who is here today. You guys are awesome. I do this every week at the same time on Mondays around this time. So come back next Monday at this time, or slightly earlier than this, for another episode of Side Hustle Ideas. Thanks very much. Take care.